Hey everybody, this is Logan Lynn with Keep Oregon Well, Mental Health Matters. I am here with all these lovely folks. We were just on a panel here at NatCon17 in Seattle. I'm going to kick it over to Tyler Norris, who's going to tell you who we are and what we're doing here.
Logan, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Tyler Norris, and I'm the Chief Executive of the Institute for Mental Health and Wellness. We're a new national foundation focused on improving the mental health and well-being of the country. Invested in by Providence St. Joseph Health. Our mission, to improve the mental, social, and spiritual health of the nation. So we're really excited to be here in Seattle and have a conversation with a few colleagues. Let me briefly introduce them. To my left is Dr. Arpan Wagre. Arpan is a geriatric psychiatrist, and he has the role of the System Director for Behavioral Medicine at Swedish Health Services here in Seattle. And Logan Lynn, you know, but for those of you who don't, his official title is Chief Impact Officer at Trillium Family Services. But most of us know Logan for his extraordinary work with Mental Health Matters, Keep Oregon Well, and as a singer, songwriter, film producer, and incredible activist leader that's helping all of us norm having conversations about our mental health and well-being. To his left is Dr. Robin Henderson. Robin is the Chief Executive for Behavioral Health at Providence Medical Group in Oregon, the largest provider of behavioral health services in Oregon. And Robin is helping design a system across the state of Oregon to make sure that people's mental health and well-being needs are met. And finally, to her left is Patrick Gordon. Patrick is the Associate Vice President of the Rocky Mountain Health Plans in Colorado, is a payer, and has been doing extraordinary work to build financial models that are actually making sure that we can pay for needed mental and behavioral health services, and doing that in some really creative ways. So we're thrilled to be able to spend the next half hour with you in a conversation about how we build partnerships to improve the mental health and wellness of the country.
Yeah,
Logan, how are you?
Well done.
Yeah.
So we took some questions live during the panel. Like I said, we're at NatCon17. We just had a panel about what Tyler was just talking about, how to partner across health systems with community in new ways, harness innovation of community, and reach you all in ways that potentially health systems and doctors and health leaders haven't been able to. Let's start in on questions. How about that?
Yeah.
Here's one that's to all of us. It says, collective impact can be messy. How do you navigate the reality of collaborating with so many missions, budgets, and agendas? Anyone want to start?
Humility.
Humility. Right, that could be applied to all questions, probably.
That's right. That's right. No, the reality is that if you approach that work with a spirit of service to a community, and you can work to narrow it. Sometimes collective impact works better when you narrow it to a single topic. You can get a quick win, and that will kind of prime the pump. And then with those relationships, greater things are possible.
I realize I said collective impact, assuming that all of you know what that means, too. Does anyone here feel like they're a collective impact expert and want to give the official definition? I can tell you what I think it means. Nobody's jumping at the opportunity to define.
Kick it off and I'll jump in.
I think it's, for me, what it has meant is really making room at the table for everybody, even at times when it's inconvenient, right? Like all voices, for me, from an equity perspective, means all voices.
And for a lot of us in the field, in healthcare and others, particularly those that are making grants, we've recognized that over the years, that the nature of the grants we were making, the size of them, the duration of them, the way we were partnering was insufficient to have a real impact in the community. So we were doing good things, but we weren't accountable for our impact. And I think what collective impact is getting, that we need much more significant partnership to be able to do that. FSG and the Stanford Social Innovation Review has written extensively about models of collective impact with a backbone organization, strong vision, use of data, communication. There's a lot to learn around that, and I think the next generation of collective impact isn't just a packaged model with a backbone operation and 5 principles, but it's really how do we take an equity-centric view from the first place, radical inclusion of a community, people without titles after their names, residents of communities, really helping drive the change initiative in communities so that there's significant inclusion in the beginning, and clearly that's upstream, not only from effective impact on anything, but from mental emotional well-being.
Yeah.
Inclusion.
You know, I've been really touched by watching what's happened in one of our hospitals in Hood River. Providence Hood River has really engaged their community in trauma-informed care. So they bring everybody together, law enforcement community, district attorneys, folks who have lived experience, parents of people who've been incarcerated, emergency department directors, physicians, all kinds of different individuals. And they're engaged in a community-wide effort to teach them about trauma-informed care and how other people's trauma impacts them and how their effect can impact other people as well. It's a very powerful movement in the small community in Hood River, based and started and funded by the CCO Medicaid funds, actually. So it's really been great to watch them develop and grow.
Yeah, I think of it almost like we've all collectively committed to biting off more than we can chew.
Yeah.
Right? Like we know we need to eat it together as a community, and also who's going to help us. The plate's too big.
Right. I think if we very fundamentally think about how you design the care and think about the service user at the heart, we have programs that we worked on right from school-based programs all the way to community partnerships through primary care involving law enforcement, working with our, so I think it's critical for us to be able to do that and do it right.
So to the question, how? And it's messy, right? Like if we all have our own, I certainly have my own stories around this, and we're partnered outside of the sector too, right? It's messy enough when it's health system to doctor to nurse and healthcare to healthcare. But when you start partnering like we do with mainstream media like iHeartRadio or Alpha Media or NBC News or any of those actors and celebrities or bands, there's gonna be times where it's like, whoa, none of these things are like the other. And how do any of you have experience around sort of cultivating that common ground area where the magic happens?
I think it really goes back to one of the things, Patrick, you said initially, was having a collective one vision. Everybody going after that one thing, each from their own perspective, and having the ability to value how that perspective looks and works. But you got to have a goal that you're going after in order to be able to impact it.
I mean, I think that collective impact has been used a bit as a technique, but I'd like to think about more as a way of communities viewing their development. So, for example, I'd like to look at Harlem Children's Zone or someplace like that, where there's a generational approach to human potentiation. It's a sense of mom's pregnant, so how do we make sure she's supporting a healthy birth for brain development? How's her well-being? How's she Head Start, Healthy Start, kid gets to school, ready to learn, eat, sing, pray, play, count. What are the great work Andy Casey Foundation is doing around ready to learn and ready to read, and then finding your way through school and engagement, mentorship and support, all the way to that bridge into high school and then into work or on continuing. So you're looking at a lifespan approach rooted in social justice and equity, where a person's well-being is attended to across time. That, to me, is collective impact, not just a technique around a grant project or strategy. So I'm interested in those kind of communities that are adopting a whole person, whole system approach to transformation, not just doing techniques for a couple years.
Great. I have another question here. If I live in rural Oklahoma, how would I start to organize or reach community in new ways, right? Like I know we're all in major metropolitan areas for the most part. Do you have any advice for folks that aren't? How do they find that like-mindedness that's the magic spot?
You know, before I came to Providence, I was in rural Oregon. In parts of rural Oregon, there are more cows than there are people, and you've got to figure out, where do people show up? Is it the county fair? Is it the fireman's breakfast? Is it what is the gathering place for the community? And in many of these communities, the gathering place was the hospital. That was the thing that was there. So what could you open up and invite people into and figure out how you bring them together? But really, you've got to figure out where are your community leaders, engaging your city councilors, your mayor, your county commissioners, and all those other types of folks, but also meeting people where they're at in a rural community.
And also the informal leaders. They're leaders, but the guy who runs the restaurant, who employs a monolingual Spanish community, pastor people who lead the sports teams in their community, and creating that network can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that with Keep Oregon Well and Mental Health Matters, one of our key strategies has been to identify who the local celebrities are, or who the local radio talent is, or the local TV talent, where we know that trust has already been built, right? Like as health systems, or even as me as Logan Lynn, I can't just go into a community as an unknown person and be like, trust me, it's gonna be great, right? Like I have to actually identify the people who they already trust and know, and then those people, after we've built relationship, then they say, trust him or trust them, and it goes from there. And then I have the right? And then I can build relationship and the actual trust.
One thing I'm really appreciating about what you're saying is, first of all, is the authenticity. So her question is to really be herself, right? Yeah. And then I love the notion of kind of going where people are. There's a sense of, well, how am I going to get everybody together, come to my meeting? It's much more effective to go where people are, sort of.
That's right.
Come to the existing places where people are. And to me, the sort of in rural communities or urban communities that have sort of been isolated economically or socially for different reasons, efforts like Latino Health Access in Los Angeles, for example, and its Promotora network, are all rooted in the informal fabric of neighborhood and community. And so at the end of the day, that's really where change occurs, is in those informal human structures. Influencers, right. It may not have a title after their name, but they're trusted because of who they are.
Yeah,
that's
for sure
a powerful place to begin.
Here's another question. Is evidence-based practice or models being considered as indicators of good treatment and outcomes?
I would say absolutely. I mean, we have limited resources, and we have to be good stewards of these limited resources. In order for us to do that, we need to be able to measure outcomes. We need to be able to deliver good results so that people stay healthy. So maintaining registries, treating people to target, getting people in remission, and monitoring things that are actually meaningful. So not just some number on one of the depression rating scales, but how are you doing to improve people's quality of life? So things like depression-free days and those kind of things, meaningful metrics. So that's really what we want to be able to focus on. And yes, so I think that's very important.
I also think, though, we can't get too hung up in the evidence-based practices that we lose out on the ability to develop new.
That's right.
What are the promising practices? What are the things that we haven't tried? And also looking at what matters to you. What matters to me in terms of my metrics and as a provider, what am I getting? Do I have my PHQ-9 scores and all these other things in order? Really are not relevant to the person at the other end of the table. What matters to them may be depression-free days, or the ability to even enjoy a day without getting a call from my child at school. That was one of the biggest things when I have a daughter who is transgender, and when we were living in another community, she would get sick all the time at school, and she would call every day. And for me as a parent, we didn't realize at that point she was transgender. And she was calling every day with anxiety and stomach pains and things like that. And for me, what would have been the biggest help would have been to figure out, what do I need to do to help her feel good so that she doesn't have to pick up the phone and call me every day.
Yeah.
And getting through those types of things. So find out what matters to the person as opposed to what matters to me.
That's a pretty big flip of a question from what's the matter with you to what matters to you.
Right.
I really appreciate you thinking that way.
I was just going to add on around evidence programs that don't be afraid to iterate. So yes, evidence has a huge role in how we drive this process of change forward. But don't be afraid to iterate. I was thinking about ACT, and the fact that so often a powerful intervention like that can work.
You may want to say ACT because not everybody on.
Assertive community treatment, right? My apologies. Works, but for such a small number of people. Yeah. And that concept of fidelity to the model can oftentimes be exclusive. And so don't be afraid to iterate. Don't be afraid to play and problem solve and innovate, particularly in rural areas.
So we talked a lot about on the panel that large health systems, all of us included, are looking to partner further with community-based organizations. This question from one of the audience members is, what qualities are you looking for from a community-based organization? Anybody want to start that one?
We were just talking about that, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were.
Yeah. See, I don't think it's so much about credentials or recognition or accreditation or scale. It's about being able to be a good partner, having a vision of where you want to go and where you can give and what you can receive, and really understanding what you bring to the table. And when you have that understanding and that you're part of a table, you know, it makes it easier to create networks, makes it easier to partner. And so that's what we look for, people with vision.
And I would add just people who are aligned with our mission. I mean, I would say that, I mean, to Patrick's point, it's not so much about what model or what they're using. It's really, how do we share that same mission? Like Robin was describing, we want to get to this common place. And I think that would be probably the most important criteria for us to partner with someone.
You know, I look at the partnership that we're building with Trillium,
Yep.
and I think what attracts us and keeps us at the table with you all is the commitment to really providing care that meets the needs of the people that we're serving where they come, where they present. You're thinking in different ways about how you bring care to schools, how you bring care to community, how you bring care to very different places than I can reach. So how do we complement and support each other and bring out the best in each other? I think is really, you know, you also push on us to do better.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
You provide care in different ways than we do, and you
Yeah.
tell us when we're not actually meeting those standards
Sure.
that you're setting. for
That's
us.
the good partnership. And I guess, you know, along with mission alignment, when I think about who I want at the table to inform that work, I also want people who disagree with me.
Yes.
Right? Like
That's
I
right.
really want people who are like, you have no business being here, you have no business speaking on my behalf, so that I can lean into that and say, you know, you're right. I am part of this foot of oppression, and yet I'm showing up. I'm Logan, I'm here, I want to lean in, help me sort of point my platform in a way that would highlight the good work that's already happening in community. We talked a little bit during the panel about this false notion of empowering community, and I think all of us here are pretty aware, and anybody who's part of a community knows that community, you all, are already empowered. And so whether it's Keep Working Well or Mental Health Matters or the Institute for Mental Health and Wellness or Providence or any of our organizations, us coming in and doing a needs assessment versus us coming in and doing a power analysis of how we are being a foot of oppression potentially, that all feels very radical and new. And to your point about Trillium, I have really liked, you know, one of the first things that Kim said to me when I got there was, you think you could help us become an anti-racist organization? Because I'm pretty sure we're part of Oregon's history of oppression. And I was like, whoa, yes, this guy, I'm into it. And so I think if we can be pulling those sorts of narratives out for all of our organizations, that conflict that we're already interacting with, conflict around racism or poverty or homophobia or transphobia or whatever, all of this stuff that keeps us apart, keeps us from partnering, if we can lean into that together on the front end as you're building a community of collective impact or a community of like-mindedness, you're going to eventually have to deal with that stuff. So I think we try to build it in on the front end.
I think it's you know, we're all aware right now of the mental health and substance use issues being, our whole society is more aware of these issues now than it has been, not just those of us who worked in that field some. And with mental health issues, the leading cause of disability in the country now, we're clear that you can't just be a healthcare provider and somehow think that that's how we're going to get to solution.
Right.
We're going to have to unleash partnership, the talent of communities, sort of really the diversity of our communities. We talked earlier today about the idea of what can we learn from social movements, for example, around civil rights, around women's empowerment, women's voting, suffrage, et cetera, and continuing to this day around fair pay, is we need to unleash distributed leadership where the empowerment, the self-empowerment you're describing, we see as part of the solution. So partnership isn't just a nice thing that we need to be able to do to get something done. It's actually the solution in itself to making sure that we're essentially unleashing the power, talent, creativity of a community. And then we can make sure that, you know, we do what we do best and we partner for the rest.
Right. Because we don't know what we don't know, right?
Exactly.
So oftentimes we talk about investment and models and so on, when really what we need is inspiration. And when you can bring inspiration or creator to be a part of it, you learn things that you never knew, you tap into possibilities you never knew existed.
See, that's what I think is so exciting about this opportunity we have to build out the Institute and the work that we're doing here. This is a blank space. Nobody's taking leadership in this country around mental health right now. Nobody's stepping up and saying, I got this, you know? And that's what I see is so powerful in this partnership and the ability to bring in other health systems, insurers, other types of individuals to the table to really say, now's the time. We need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about emotional well-being. We need to, especially now in this political climate, we need to address these issues that are fundamental to solving our healthcare crisis. And nobody's having that conversation.
I think we will find that the issues we're talking about here are the nation's security issues, that the great security issues in abroad, it's what we're talking about right here.
That's right.
Totally.
I think we leave it there, friends. Thank you so much for tuning
Yeah.
in. You can find the video of the talk we were just referencing on the facebook.com/keeporegonwell. It's where you are now if you're watching this. And if not, you can head over there and watch both of these videos. I'm also going to upload them to the Keep Oregon Well YouTube. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Arpan. Thank you so much, Robin. And thank you, Patrick, for being here. I'm Logan Land. Keep Oregon Well. Mental health matters. #we.